Sienna. Get the hidden bourbon out. Heavy leather shoe steps thudded against the wooden floor, and the alcohol-fueled roar hit my eardrums like a blunt instrument. Clutching my teddy bear, my nails dug deep into its matted ears as I huddled in the farthest corner of the wardrobe, barely daring to breathe. Marcus, you've had too much to drink. Mom's voice trembled with the familiar restraint. We have to pay Selena's art class tuition tomorrow. You can't drink anymore. Tuition? You still have the nerve to worry about tuition. The sharp crash of a glass shattering on the floor made me jump. I bit my lips so hard I almost drew blood to hold back my tears. Through the crack in the wardrobe door, I saw Dad glaring at Mom with bloodshot eyes. His tall figure swayed like a withering tree about to fall. Why didn't you think about Selena's tuition when you were calling that bastard behind my back? Mom's sobs mixed with the sound of something being knocked over. I didn't. That was the landlord. He's here to collect rent. Marcus, can you please snap out of it? I buried my face in the teddy bear's fur. My nose was filled with the smell of mothballs in the wardrobe, mixed with the lingering stench of alcohol on Dad. Scenes like this had been happening non-stop since last winter. It hadn't always been this way. Once, Dad worked at an auto repair shop. Every day he came home, he'd bring me chocolate from the corner convenience store, and Mom would cook spaghetti in the kitchen, the air thick with the aroma of cream and tomatoes. But after he got fired, he started locking himself in his room to drink, and the laughter in our house turned into shouting and the sound of things being smashed. No funny business? Then what are these text messages on your phone? Dad's roar suddenly rose, followed by Mom's scream. I heard her stumbling footsteps and Dad's heavy panting. I knew what was coming. Every time he got drunk and mentioned cheating, he'd hit her. I was too scared to look, yet I couldn't help but widen the crack in the wardrobe door. The living room light flickered on and off. Mom had fallen beside the sofa, her hair disheveled. Dad was dragging her arm, pulling her to the floor, while his other hand gripped a belt, slamming it against the sofa armrest repeatedly. The sound of leather hitting fabric made my scalp tingle. A porcelain mug fell off the coffee table, shattering into pieces. One shard bounced over to the wardrobe door, glinting coldly in the light. Let her go. Summoning up all my courage, I burst out of the wardrobe and clung to Dad's legs. His pants were soaked with alcohol, cold and sticky. He looked down at me, the blood vessels in his eyes spreading like a spiderweb, and my heart almost stopped with fear. Get lost. He kicked me away hard. I crashed to the floor, my back slamming into the shards of porcelain. The pain made tears pour out of my eyes instantly. My teddy bear fell aside, one of its eyes knocked off, lying alone among the broken pieces. Dad wasn't done. He lifted his foot and kicked Mom in the waist. She curled up on the floor, unable to speak, only whimpering softly. Seizing the chance, Mom scrambled to her feet, threw herself beside me, and held me protectively. Marcus. You're crazy. That's your daughter. Dad sneered, stumbling over to rummage through the TV cabinet drawers. Daughter? Who knows if she's even mine? He pulled out a stack of money, Mom's hidden living expenses. Looks like you've been hiding more than just alcohol. That's for Selena's school uniform. You can't take it. Mom tried to grab the money, but he pushed her to the floor. Her head hit the coffee table leg with a loud thud. Dad stuffed the money into his pocket, took a big gulp from the bottle on the table, and slammed the door as he left. The moment the door closed, Mom hugged me and burst into tears. The wound on my back still hurt, but I was more afraid of Mom's sobs. I reached out and patted her back awkwardly, just like she used to comfort me. The living room was a mess, broken glass, overturned chairs, throw pillows on the floor, and the shard of porcelain stained with my blood, all like gaping, ugly wounds. Mom's forehead was bleeding. I tried to wipe it with my sleeve, but she squeezed my hand tightly, her voice trembling. Selena, Mom's okay. That night, Mom cleaned and bandaged my wound, but she only put a simple band-aid on her own. We squeezed into my small bed to sleep. She held me tightly, her body still shaking slightly. I stared at the ceiling, my mind filled with images of Dad's fierce face and Mom's cries. I didn't dare close my eyes, fearing that the moment I did, I'd see Dad hitting her again. Domestic violence like this became a daily occurrence. Once, Dad lost all his money gambling and came home in the middle of the night to find Mom hadn't left him any food. He slapped her hard, splitting her lip open. Not satisfied, he grabbed her hair and slammed her head against the wall. I hid in my room, burying my head under the covers, but Mom's screams still pierced my ears like needles. I could only clutch the pillow tightly, my nails digging into my palms, until the noise stopped. Then I dared to sneak out. Mom was lying on the floor, her face black and blue. When she saw me, she forced a smile. It's okay, Mom can take it. Another time, I left my finished art homework on the table. Dad, drunk, thought it was evidence Mom had hidden. He tore it to pieces, kicked over my desk, sending textbooks scattering everywhere, and pointed at me yelling. You're nothing but a burden. You're the reason my life is so miserable. The next morning, Mom's eyes were swollen like walnuts. She made me breakfast, then silently cleaned up the living room. I sat at the dining table, watching her bend down to pick up the broken glass, not even noticing when she cut her finger. Mom, I whispered, can we leave here? Mom froze for a moment, then turned to look at me, her eyes filled with exhaustion. Selena, just wait a little longer. When Mom saves enough money, we'll leave. But I knew it was just a comfort. Dad took every penny Mom hid away every day. Sometimes he even went to the restaurant where she worked, yelling at her in front of her colleagues, making her lose face in public. At school, I was always distracted. When the teacher called on me, I couldn't react for a long time. My deskmate Ella asked me what was wrong, but I didn't dare tell her about home. I was afraid she'd look down on me, afraid she'd tell the other kids. Once, Ella saw the scar on my back. I quickly pulled my shirt down, lying that I'd fallen accidentally. After that, I never dared to wear short-sleeved school uniforms again, no matter how hot it got. Dad got worse and worse. Not only did he drink and abuse Mom, but he also started gambling heavily. Once, he lost a fortune and came home and carried the TV away. Mom argued with him, and he slapped her hard, splitting her lip again. I hid in my room, covering my head with the quilt, but I could still hear Mom's sobs and Dad's curses. That night, I had a terrible nightmare. I dreamed Dad was chasing Mom and me with a knife. We ran as fast as we could, but we couldn't escape. Dad's laughter echoed in my ears like a devil's. He grabbed Mom and stabbed the knife into her. I screamed and woke up, covered in cold sweat. Mom was woken up by me. She held me tightly, repeating over and over. Don't be afraid, Selena. Mom's here. I became more and more silent and inferior. I didn't dare talk to my classmates, didn't dare take part in school activities, and even didn't dare look up in crowded places. Sometimes I'd hide alone in the school woods, daydreaming about how life would be if Dad wasn't there. One day, Mom came home from work with a small suitcase. She called me into the room and whispered, Selena, we're leaving. Right now. I looked at the determination in her eyes, feeling a mix of shock and joy. Mom packed some of our clothes and daily necessities, then took my hand and we snuck out of the house while Dad was still gambling outside. We walked through the night, Mom holding my hand tightly, walking quickly. I glanced back at the house we'd lived in for years, feeling no nostalgia at all, only relief. We took a taxi to another city. Mom said she had a distant relative here who could take us in temporarily. The relative's house was small, and we had to sleep on the living room sofa. But I didn't mind at all. As long as I was with Mom and away from Dad, I was content. Mom found a new job as a waitress in a small restaurant, working hard every day. But there were more smiles on her face, no longer the cautious, frightened look she used to have. I transferred to a new school, where the classmates were all friendly. The teacher took good care of me after learning about my situation. But I still couldn't shake off my inferiority. I didn't dare talk about my past, didn't dare let anyone know I had a father like that. Once, the school held a parent-child activity. Watching other classmates laughing happily with their parents, my heart felt tight with pain. I snuck off to the corner and cried, only to be found by the teacher. The teacher took me to the office and asked gently what was wrong. I couldn't hold back anymore, pouring out all my grievances and fears to her. She hugged me softly and said, "Selena, this isn't your fault. You're brave, and you're strong." After that, the teacher talked to me often and even recommended me to the school counselor. I thought this peace would last forever, but I was wrong. One day, when I came home from school, I saw Dad standing at the relative's door. His hair was messy, his face unshaven, his eyes bloodshot like a rabid beast. I trembled with fear, hiding behind Mom. "Sienna! You dared to run away with her!" Dad roared, reaching out to grab me. Mom held me tightly, shielding me. "Marcus, stay away. We have nothing to do with you anymore." "Nothing to do with me?" Dad sneered. "She's my daughter. Who do you think you are to take her away?" He pushed Mom aside and grabbed my arm tightly. His grip was so strong it made me cry. "Let go of me. I'm not your daughter." I struggled desperately. The relative heard the commotion and ran out, stopping Dad. "What are you doing? Leave now, or I'll call the police." Dad looked at the relative, then at me, his eyes filled with malice. He threw my arm away violently, left a threatening, "You'll regret this," and stormed off. After that, I lived in constant fear. I was afraid Dad would come back for us, afraid he'd hurt Mom and me. I couldn't sleep at night, always having nightmares. Mom was worried too. She started saving money, planning to move again. One day, Mom picked me up from school and told me she'd applied for a spot in a government women's shelter, and we could move there. The shelter was full of people like us, with counselors and legal aid workers. Finally, I didn't have to be afraid of Dad finding us anymore. At the shelter, I made many new friends. We studied, played, and attended counseling sessions together. The counselor told me that Dad's actions weren't my fault, and I didn't have to take responsibility for his mistakes. He taught me how to regulate my emotions and face my past trauma. Slowly, I started to step out of the shadow. The counselor encouraged me to pick up my art again, so I took out my paintbrushes every day, pouring my feelings onto the paper. Once, the shelter held a painting competition. I painted a piece called "Light," a mother holding a little girl's hand, darkness behind them, bright light ahead. To my surprise, I won an award. Standing on the podium, looking at Mom and the teacher's encouraging eyes, I dared to speak my mind out loud for the first time. "This painting is for my mom. She gave me the courage to keep going." After that, I became more and more confident. I volunteered to join the school art club, helping organize exhibitions with my classmates. In class, I dared to raise my hand to answer questions, even sharing my painting experiences actively. Once, there was a little girl in the club who was inferior because of family problems. I thought of myself back then, so I took the initiative to comfort her, sharing the coping skills the counselor had taught me. Watching her gradually cheer up, I suddenly realized that growth means turning the pain you've endured into light that shines on others. About 6 months later, we heard about Dad's fate from the news. His years of drinking and gambling had left him deeply in debt to loan sharks. When they came to collect, he lost his temper and injured someone. He was arrested by the police and sentenced to prison. When I heard the news, I didn't feel hatred or fear, only relief. Finally, he'd paid for his actions, and Mom and I were completely free from his shadow. Now, Mom and I have moved out of the shelter and rented a small apartment. It's not big, but it's warm and cozy. Through her hard work, Mom was promoted from waitress to restaurant supervisor, and her smile grows brighter every day. She cooks my favorite spaghetti for me every day, and the air is once again filled with the aroma of cream and tomatoes. I also got into my dream art high school, working hard toward my dream every day. I know the scars of the past will never fully fade, but those experiences have made me cherish my present life even more. Sometimes, I think of that one-eyed teddy bear, of that blood-stained shard of porcelain, but I don't feel sad anymore. Those are things of the past. I have a new teddy bear now, with 2 bright eyes, just like my life now, full of hope. A mother's love is the greatest power in the world. With her perseverance and courage, Mom built a safe haven for me. She wasn't defeated by life's hardships. Instead, she did everything she could to protect me, giving me warmth and hope. It was this deep maternal love that transformed me from a little girl trembling in the wardrobe into a confident, brave young woman. Growth never happens overnight. It's accompanied by pain, but also filled with strength. I'm grateful I didn't get trapped in the past, and even more grateful that Mom has always been by my side. The road ahead is long, but I will carry Mom's love in my heart, walking forward bravely to create a bright future for both of us.